Call to order the meeting of the Select Board of January 6th. Please rise as we salute the flag. Please remain standing thereafter. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we offer a moment of silence for our service personnel, both here and abroad, and also for the passing of President James Carter. Please be seated. All right. The meeting is being recorded and available on DCTV, and it's on DCTV Live on DCTV's YouTube channel, and it will be available through DCTV. We do have a member who is remote, Mr. Mickelson, so all votes will be roll call votes. The warrant has been signed, passed around and signed. And we're here for the first appointment. We have an application under being received by the year-round restaurant, all alcohol license, and a pledge of collateral under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, from Dartmouth, Mass. Golf, LLC, DBA Golf 15, Golf DX, at 127 Ponce Corner Road. Why don't you come up to the podium? Okay, this being a new license, just introduce yourself, describe your business, and what you're basically looking for.
My name's Norman Susi, and that's my wife, Anne-Marie. We're partners in this venture. We're opening a Golf VX, which is a company that's out of Korea. They have 4,000 locations in Korea. They are stationed out of Chicago now, where they have a corporate office, and they just opened up a corporate Golf VX there, 12,000 square feet, 12 simulators. I've been there. It's amazing. That it's state-of-the-art, something that no one's ever seen here compared to other virtual machines. So we really liked it. My son's involved. He's an avid golfer. He kind of brings this to my attention, so we thought it'd be great to bring to the town of Dartmouth, something that people come get out, have date night. We're going to have leagues. We're going to have events. We're doing a program with the VA. My son's a veteran, and he's went to the VA, and we're setting up a program so they can come play and interact and have something to do. So it's a really nice setup.
Okay, the location is at 27 Ponce Corner Road. I'm assuming that's the plaza behind?
Right next to, what's the steakhouse? Texas Roadhouse, I'm sorry.
Texas Roadhouse, okay.
Yeah. It should be Unit AB. That's what my lease says, but when you look in the plans here, it says it's a different unit, so we're not sure yet.
Okay. Board members have any questions?
And one quick question.
Mr. Talbot?
Will you be protected by the franchise on a regional basis?
Yeah, so the franchise, everything's done through them, so they, we're still learning a lot because I don't know everything, but they're coming down here for 2 months to stay with us in the beginning of the operation, so, but we are protected through them. And we're the first one. And there's 5 others right behind us that are being built, but we're the first one probably opening.
You're going to give you extra miles protection?
They gave us 25 miles, but we're the only ones getting that. Everyone else is going to be 5 miles. So there's not going to be much.
But your lease will say 25 miles?
Yeah, that's pretty far, because it's 50 miles across.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good.
It's great. It's
Well,
great. I own a business in Dartmouth now. They gave me 2 miles,
Yeah,
a
that gets you to
franchise.
Providence, so
Yeah. Yeah, they'll
pretty
almost
much.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, board members? Mr. Mickelson, you have any questions?
No, my only comment is it's similar to Top Golf.
Yeah,
and-
Top Golf.
but
a
on
little
a
different.
smaller scale.
Okay. All right. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks.
Yes.
Chair votes in favor. All right,
Good luck.
good luck.
So much for your time.
In mind? A date to open? A date to open?
Oh, gee, we just demoed the inside.
Sometime this year.
Huh?
Sometime this year.
We're praying for March,
Okay.
because winter is our busiest season,
Sure, yeah.
obviously. I might catch a little bit of it, but I got a good construction crew, so we're hopeful. But anything can happen in construction.
Well, good luck.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, that concludes our appointments. Under new business, we have an application for a motor vehicle license 2 at 590 Dartmouth Street for Bliss Corner Auto Sales. Anybody can come on up. All right, just introduce yourself and,
Introduce yourself.
Where's Paul Amarello, Senior?
all right, so, all right, so exactly where is 590 Dartmouth Street? Is this on the corner of,
This corner.
this is
It's
the
right
corner of Bliss
above
Corner?
Sheridan Street.
Okay, all right. All right.
This is Bliss Corner.
Yep.
Right
All
there.
right, board members have any questions?
No questions.
There was a business there previously, same business. I think this will be great.
All right. Do you have any questions of us?
No questions at all.
All right. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
All right, motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr., I'm sorry.
Tattelbaum. That's
Motion
Tattelbaum.
made by Mr. Tattelbaum, seconded by Mr. Mickelson. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Tattelbaum? Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Chair votes in favor. You got your license. Good luck.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
I have a question. How do we get that license?
Contact our office tomorrow,
Yeah.
okay?
What office?
Okay, thank
Select-
you.
Yeah, the select board office, see Melanie. Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Good luck.
Come.
All right. Next item on the agenda, we have the Human Resource Director transition discussion.
Yes, so as you know, our HR director Denise Bosang, her last day was this past Friday. We'd like to thank her for her service to the town, and we were sorry to see her go. But we have moved forward with the recruitment process. The town posted the job internally, and it had set a deadline of December 16th. The town did receive 2 internal applicants. Now, previously, the interview committee for the HR director consisted of 2 members of this board, and I think we'd like to continue that same practice. So after today, what we'd like to do over the next couple weeks is sit down as a group, review those applications, and determine what the best next steps would be. Part of that would potentially include interviewing, and I know that we did hold off on posting externally, but that is something that this committee may want to consider. In terms of the transition, last week I met with the HR benefits coordinator, Melissa Jerome, to discuss the transition and the needs of the department. With the board's approval, we'd like to work on an agreement with Melissa in the short term so she can take on some more of the administrative responsibilities in the office, seeing how she's in there throughout the day while this recruitment is ongoing. One of the things that was expressed, just due to the amount that we work with that office, we will need some additional support in the short term. I have contacted and spoken with several HR consultants, and it is my hope to make a recommendation to the board at its upcoming meeting on potentially having interim services to assist us during the transition. And certainly open to questions on those efforts so far.
Okay, board members?
I'll just let you know that I served when we hired Denise, and I'm happy to work to get a new candidate.
We decided not to go out right away and vet the first 2 internals, or
I don't think we've decided anything.
nothing?
Nothing's really been decided at this point in time. I know we wanted to do an in-house just to see what
If there was anyone.
if there was any interest in in-house candidates, to see what's going on. There are 2 candidates who are interested, but, needs to be looked at and whatnot. And then I guess at some point in time, if the screening committee looks at and determines one way or the other whether, to go with an internal candidate or to go out and post, we'll see what happens. So, Mrs. Brooks has stepped up to be part of that process. Mr. Tattelbaum?
I think we got a twofold issue here. One is, why would we just send out to public at once and not waste, and then waste valuable time? What's the reason for hesitation going outside?
So, I believe when the position became vacant, that was a decision made by this board to just post internally.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, I think, we owe it to our internal candidates who did put in the application to review it, review those applications based on their merit, and then if we, as a committee, determine we want to post externally, I don't think we should sit on these too long because it already has been a few weeks.
Right.
And certainly we'd like to get that position filled sooner rather than later. So I think, following this meeting here tonight, we're ready to move and review those applications so we can make a decision.
Okay. You need 2 members from this board?
That's correct, yes.
Volunteering?
I'm willing to,
I would
if you
do it
are
if-
also, or just,
No, I would, if you have the time and wherewithal,
yeah,
it'd be okay with me.
I serve at the behest of the chairman.
What's that?
I serve at the behest of the chairman.
Wow, behest. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Is that a biblical term?
No, that's
Far
beheaded.
from it.
All right, so we'll have Mr. O'Neill and Mrs. Brooks sit on the screening committee for that.
In addition, then, if that, does it make sense that our next meeting, we'd find the results of that, and then we'd determine whether we want to go public or whatever? At
The next meeting is when?
So the next board meeting is the 27th. I don't know if the board wants to delegate that to the screening committee to make that determination, or if the board wants that committee to
I'd like
come back to the board.
I'd like to see them come back to us and make the recommendation.
Certainly.
Okay.
But what's the date? That's going to be
The 27th.
a long time.
Yeah,
But we have the support, but right now we have Melissa Jerome in the office, and we will have some consulting.
Well, that was my second part of the question about help.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think the time frame would be for that to get?
So I've had a conversation with a consultant and then separately a consulting firm. There's 2 ways it can be structured. It could either be structured as an interim appointment where they work under the town as an employee, by contract. That's something that we could work out with the board at a future meeting. I think that would probably provide us the greatest flexibility and provide us the most amount of service, best price. The other option, similar to what we did, with a couple of other vacancies, is we can have a firm come in and we can utilize their services up to $10,000 without having to go out to procurement. Now,
I think I'd like to know what the breakdown of the HR position, which tasks Melissa Jerome is taking over and which tasks still need support before making that level of decision, because right now it's January. What is, I'm sure there's busier times in her position, but what really needs to happen, and do we have somebody already in-house that we can task with some options?
So unfortunately, we do not. So for Melissa, she's expressed being able to manage the office and the calls that come in, and being able to field those various requests and make sure they get to where they need to go. But in terms of taking on the responsibilities of the HR director, she does a lot when it comes to benefits for the town employees, and she has expressed that she is not looking to take on those additional functions at this time. So really, when it comes to the town's needs over the next several months, there's a few things that we as the town need to consider. The first is we are going to collective bargaining with all of our unions, and having an HR professional in addition to our labor council, I think it's going to be very important with coordination, with recommendations. So that's one element. And the next is, and it's going to be later on the agenda, is we put out an RFP for our classification and compensation study. And I think that the information that we get from that study is going to really help guide the town over the next 6 to 12 months. And so this person or this position was really a key piece of that in terms of coordinating it and seeing that project to the finish. Regular employee relation matters, recruiting across the various departments are just a couple of the other functions that I could foresee in the short term that we will need assistance with. So those are really, I think, the big four that come to mind that I would look to see what type of capacity support the town could get. And you're really at the board's discretion. With the support, I could either lean in and try and see if there's a consulting firm that would be able to provide us those interim services, or if the board wanted to do, and I believe it did last time, have a consultant contract, if you will.
I think
And
that,
have it be a date specified.
That's what I was going to ask. What did we do last time? Because the woman that left prior to Denise, we had a long gap in between her resignation and hiring Denise.
Yeah, so
How was that handled then?
yeah, so last time looking through our records, there was a short-term consultant agreement where they took on the functions of the HR director.
Excuse me,
Go ahead, Mr. Mickelson.
with that being said, we're talking 3 weeks away from a meeting to discuss this again. It's evident to me that as far as I'm concerned, we should just go out tomorrow with this job application. Why not? What are we waiting for? 3 more weeks to discuss a couple of things, and then it'll be 3 more weeks. You'll be at the end of February. Wasting a lot of time.
Well,
Put it out tomorrow. That's my suggestion.
if we put it out tomorrow, then we're doing a disservice to the 2 in-house applicants.
we're
They can
also talking
apply for
about, we're confusing 2 different issues here.
They can apply for it.
One is,
He did
do we
apply
go
for it.
public for the application? The second is, what do we do in the short term as far as
Well,
support?
the thing is, that's just it. We need a plan to come up with, and I think between Gary and Chris, they can come up with a plan as to what type of services we're gonna use, whether it's a consultant or either one of the 2, and they can get to us and get that information to us before the meeting. So that way,
Available for-
because I'm assuming within the next 3 weeks, you'll be meeting with the in-house candidates. And we should have a recommendation from the screening committee as to how they want to proceed. And then we can make that decision on the 27th as to whether or not we want to, how we want to go moving forward. And I think that's probably the best plan. Gary?
So, Mr. Chairman, I did speak to Melissa Jerome, as Chris had also spoke to her, and I think what Melissa is concerned about is more the heavy lift, more the having to deal with the one-on-one with this issues with employees, and I don't think we'd expect that for her. She would be running the office day to day, still working on benefits for the town. That's her main job. She'd probably be doing a little bit of recruiting, maybe not a lot. As you're aware that most of the key, unlike the town administrator, key positions are pretty much filled. We have a couple in the DPW that haven't been filled, but the key positions right now, we have been able to fill those over the last few months. So I think maybe we can get by, maybe not so as robust as we did last time when Melissa Medeiros left, with that kind of agreement with a firm, but something that can maybe just help Melissa get through any questions that are asked that complements Labor Council. So both Chris and I can look at those opportunities that are out there, but Melissa did say that she would, step up and do a little bit, but I think we can't expect her to do recruiting and things like that.
I'll add to what Gary had said, and in the short term, while we don't have the HR director filled, both Gary and I will step in as needed to make sure that those functions, if they need to get done in the short term, get done in the short term. We do also have a very responsive Labor Council who has been able to provide us guidance and assistance as well, should we need it. But I don't anticipate a lot of issues to come up in the short term, but if they do, we'll deal with it. Yeah, we'll deal with it as we need to.
I would say, in the spirit of compromise, I think we ought to give some teeth to the screening committee. And if they can meet with these two individuals within the week, and they are very satisfied that we have potential candidates, then they can decide we can wait for the next meeting. If they don't, I think we ought to authorize them to go out public with it through Gary and Chris. And also, I think we should also immediately go out and look for the consulting firm so that we have our ducks in line in terms of what the decision is going to be at the next meeting.
Well, depending upon how we're going to handle the consulting firm, either which way, that can be done on the 27th.
Yeah.
As far as meeting, the screening committee can meet with the two candidates, well beforehand, and they can send their recommendations to us beforehand so that we can decide on the 27th as to which way we want to go. Because if we're going to stay with an in-house candidate, then we don't need the consultant. If we're going to go outside and advertise, then we go with the consultant and go from there. So, I mean, everything, we can have all that information given to us before the 27th so that we're not at the meeting on the 27th saying we need to get more information, but we can have all that taken care of within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I think the key too is to have the screening committee being able to review these applicants that we're getting, and the courtesy of the screening committee to give them a good job description, because we've got job descriptions too out there that are older. So
one of the other factors, Sean, it's kind of an X factor is we have a TA position that's still not completed. Right. And I've always felt that it's when you have an incoming, if at all possible, if it's a matter of a week or two, to give that person who's ever coming into an open position the ability to sit in and bring their opinion to the table. So I don't know how that works into this process, but I think that's
unfortunately, I don't think it does work in this process. Because I until we have
The timeline's just
the timeline. It didn't sit right. But since this is a position that the town administrator will be under their umbrella, the performance evaluation of the position would be key upon the town administrator.
It's all the more reason to get a consulting service in here to do that work, and maybe, just maybe, they can be here long enough where the new town administrator could hire the HR, but we have covered with professionals to do this job for us on a day-to-day basis.
Right, and but we'll see we should have all that information within the 3 weeks. So, anything further on this?
No. In terms of next steps, I will contact Chris and Heidi separately, and we'll get something on the calendar so that we can sit down and review those applications, and then separately we'll come back to the board with our recommendation in terms of capacity support.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Next item on the agenda, we have an in-person meeting letter to boards and commissions, as we have somebody hybrid.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So in your packet, you have a draft memo that is ready for your review to be sent out to the different boards and committees. I worded to align with what is in our board and committee handbook, really emphasizing that there should be that in-person option. You know, one thing that's not here, but I do think it's noteworthy, and Pete actually brought it up this morning at our department head meeting, is the executive order that allows remote meetings is only through March 31st, 2025.
Bring that up.
Yeah, so it's unclear whether they're going to extend that.
Mhm.
And certainly, you know, regardless of what's in this letter, that would be made known to all the boards and committees
Right.
at that time. But, you know, if there's any adjustments you want to make to this letter prior to going out, happy to do so.
Well, reading the letter, I would want to add, the executive order, for holding the remotes. But I mean, if there was a clear case of having in-person meetings, it was happened the last time when there was a couple here looking for a meeting, and, they came here for a meeting that was actually remote and they don't have a computer at home. So, and Gary was nice enough to set them up so they could join in the meeting. But, that shouldn't happen, and I think it's time, I think the time of remote meetings, situations like currently like Mr. Mickelson, who's under the weather and he doesn't want to put all of us under the weather, is totally understandable. And same thing with Mr. O'Neill, who is recovering, same thing, situations like that. But for an entire board to doing this remote, it's time to come back into town hall and hold these meetings. So I suggest that this letter be sent out.
Sean, can I just add a couple
Mr.
of things? So I think one of the big differences is obviously the appointed boards versus the elected boards. And the elected boards, from what I understand, are pretty happy with the setup that they have, given the authority from the state. And if, come the end of March, that disappears, and it disappears. So they're going to be in the same boat with everybody else. But at this point, I think the appointed boards, if they used it as need be, as we have ourselves, then I don't see a problem with that. The one issue that we have to be cognizant of, I think, is are the people that join those boards knowing that they were remote. So we might have some backlash. We might have some people backing out of positions because of it. But if the board is willing to replace those positions when they vacate, then we'll have to replace them.
Well, I mean, as it is, sometimes we have, people who have been appointed to the boards can't make the meetings. We do require, a 75% participation rate, mostly to make sure everybody has a quorum, and so that meetings, the town's business can be discussed from whatever department is. And I think, I know we have no control over planning board, school department, and board of health, but, the boards that this board does, that we, I'd like to see them to come back. I don't think there's too many that are doing fully remote. I believe Concom does, DPW does, DPW I can understand a little bit to the point because they hold their meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 in the morning. But it's time to, bring this in-house,
But at the same time, if they were to continue that, which is fine, but what happened that night when the folks came is especially if you are notified that there is a meeting and you're in a butter or you're somehow connected to the agenda, I understand why their assumption was it must be happening in a physical building. I think that's the piece. To have it solely remote, then, and I don't understand the process, as the folks that came here did not have access, then that's problematic. So if it is hybrid, then I can go, if I know I'm on the DPW agenda, I can go at 7 a.m. to DPW and sit alongside Tim Barber at the conference table and be a part of the meeting that everyone else might be on Zoom, or another member might be on
It
Zoom.
needs to be noted in the notice of the meeting. Mr. Tattlebaum?
The spirit of this letter says you will do this. And I'm all in favor as many live meetings we can have, but and we had part of the discussion from the last time, giving some boards an opportunity to come in and say, this is why we do it, and maybe because they're elected, or maybe because I took the job because it was Zoom. We're telling them we don't care. We're saying right now, as of today, you can't do that. And I think it's the spirit is not what I envision to be, teamwork. And in the end, they may say, fine, I'm not going to do it. I may resign, but that's their option. But I'd like to give people an opportunity, if they want to come in. If no one shows up, great, we send the letter out. I just don't think it's necessary to do it in this fashion. But I also would love to see every single meeting live as well, because I understand how important that is. But it's a different world today.
Yeah, I
think we also have to consider open meeting law violations. So we need to make sure that they're aware if it's posted, that they know, the chair of that meeting knows that they have to do everything on roll call, how they need to proceed. We need to just shore those things up.
We're 2 years, 3 years past the pandemic. The situation is still out there. And there is a finite time right now as to holding, remote meetings. So I don't necessarily see this as a you have to do it. But we're asking that they shall transition, towards in-person meetings. The only thing I would say as far as the letter goes, we'll make sure Gary's name is also.
The letter says shall transition back to an in-person. It says shall. We do give an option for hybrid, but the letter says shall transition. We're saying you have to do it.
Right.
We're saying shall back to an in-person or hybrid meeting format.
Right. We're not giving them options of an all outside meeting.
But isn't that the reason for the letter?
I'm not saying I'm against the letter, but it's the spirit of the letter.
What do you want to say? Maybe transition?
No, not at all. I say this is what our intent is.
Right.
If you have something to say about it, come here at our next meeting and tell us why.
Or they can respond to Chris. If any have any questions or concerns, they can respond to either Chris or Gary.
I'm not saying that. We're saying you shall.
Well, but here, should you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me, Chris Vitale, at his email address. And you can put Gary's in there too, so they can contact either Chris or Gary with their concerns, and they can relate the concerns back to us.
Put them in the meeting in front of us if they want to.
If we need to want to talk to them about it, then they can come before us. But I can leave it up to Chris and Gary to determine whether or not their concerns are reached to a point where it needs to come before the board. I think they're pretty intelligent enough to handle that.
It's about a team approach, not about how smart they are.
No, I know it's about a team approach, but not everybody's playing on the same page.
Okay.
All right. So do we want to send it? So I need a motion so that we can send the letter out.
So we're tweaking the letter to add Gary's information as well.
Yep.
And contact information. Do we add something in? We said we would add something in about the executive order.
Correct.
Expires March 31st.
Mr. Chairman, maybe, after the ending where it says "and committees," maybe we should put, maybe this is a little, I'm not saying that it should probably still have teeth, but should begin the transition of back in-person meetings. That way they know that, there's going to be a date that this is going to eventually end.
Well, the state,
If the state gives a blessing for another year or makes it permanent, then,
if they make it permanent, then I'd say in my opinion, we could address it at that point. I think, we're already, into January pretty well.
We're 12 weeks. 13
So we
weeks.
get 12 weeks under the state authority. We've got elected boards that are gonna stay by that state authority. Personally, I think other than the two people that came in, I'm sure it was in the letter that was an online meeting and they just misread it or whatever. But Gary did step up and they attended that meeting. So it wasn't a complete loss. I haven't had anybody really complaining about it. We've had a couple of Zoom bombs over the last couple of years, but, nothing crazy. My personal opinion is we wait on the state. If they say the end of March, we let everybody know it's gonna be the end of March, and if it ends, it ends. We're gonna lose some people, I know that, but it is what it is,
Well, then we can just do what Mrs. Brooks said, you should put in, instead of shall, just should begin transition to back to an in-person meeting. So at least put them on notice that, we'd like to go back to in-person as best as possible.
And then I think in a couple of weeks, you might hear at the MMA meeting, the conference in Boston, she may address whether or not usually around that time, she'll address
she'll
whether or
start
not
to
she's
hit
going
on it,
to
yeah.
extend it or it's going to be a nix.
I mean, I think it's important to let the intent know that we, obviously, we'd much rather have the boards in person, and at some point, we're probably going to, but we've got the state authority overhanging us, so why not let that run out first, and then if we need to act on it, we act on it. I don't know.
So what do you want to do? You want to send a letter or just hold the letter until we hear from the state as to what they're going to do?
We're probably going to hear it within February. I'd say February for the end of March.
I would say at the MMA meeting, which is in a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks, yeah. So, I don't know,
right, so all right.
I'd rather table it, to be honest
All
with you.
right, so we'll hold off on the letter for now.
Yeah.
All right, next item on the agenda, we were going to have a recognition of our Assistant Treasurer Cheryl Brantes, her retirement, but Cheryl could not be here tonight. So we're going to take care of this at our next meeting. All right. Next item, we have the Ladera Foundation Fund at Schwab Charitable Gift Acceptance.
Yes, so inside your packet, we did receive correspondence from Schwab Charitable that they are donating $5,000 from their Ladera Foundation Fund. And this grant is for the tree fund by our tree committee, chaired by Ann Parsons. So what we would need is a motion to accept the gift. And from there, we would put it into a separate account so it could be used for that activity.
Wonderful. All right, do we have a motion to accept the gift?
Motion to accept the gift.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Brooks, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions? Any comments? Roll call.
I just, Sean, just quickly, I think this is great. This is exactly what they said they were going to do. They stepped up, they did it. They're starting to look for the grants, and that takes even more pressure off the town. That's great.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Okay, next is we have the ARPA allocation update.
Yes, thank you. So as you know, December 31st was the deadline for the town to obligate its local ARPA funds that we had set aside in revenue replacement. Gary and I are pleased to share that we've been able to obligate most of the funds as required under that deadline. With that said, there are a couple of final updates that we're requesting tonight to ensure that we do not leave any money on the table. So even though there's word that deadline may be extended, we do not want to take that risk. So to do that, what we'd like to do tonight is we'd like to apply these funds to projects that were already in the queue and meets the federal obligation requirements under ARPA. So this would be for projects that either were through capital or were already on the ARPA list, but we needed a little bit more funds for to get over the finish line. So there's, I guess, two separate buckets that we are looking for tonight in terms of approvals. First, we'd like to reallocate the $100,000 that was previously set aside for the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan and apply it to the class and comp study. As I mentioned earlier, we went out to an RFP, we got proposals back, and in order to fully fund that study, we'd like to reallocate the funds. For the SEMP, talking with our emergency management director, they were able to work with MEMA so that we did not have to have a consultant do that study. They've been able to do that free of charge. So that was good news for the town.
Could you, 100,000 is for what again?
The classification and compensation study, yes. Second, we'd ask that the board approve an allocation of up to $935,000 toward expenditures previously funded through the capital improvement plan. So there was a couple of DPW projects that we were not able to formalize procurement in time. However, there were projects approved at this last fall town meeting that did move forward. And what we could do is we can essentially free up those capital funds that were allocated, have it flow back to free cash, and then it'll go back in the queue for another round of capital requests this upcoming year. So either that could be for new projects or for those couple projects that we weren't able to get in by the deadline. They'd be able to be submitted as capital requests this upcoming year, by the department. So those are the last couple changes that we are hoping for, and then our ARPA will be done.
So can I understand this correctly? We got $100,000 that we want to use to. Apparently, we didn't get that in time for the opera funds, and $935,000. Is that correct? Is that all of it now? Is there any more?
So everything else was obligated. So over the next couple of years, those funds will be drawn down from their respective accounts. But it would just be really those two separate allocations that we looking for tonight. And I think
That's
Gary
it.
wanted to mention something.
There's nothing else, no other surprises, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So, Mr. Mickle, through the chair, this is more an accounting function. This is actually good news for the town. For instance, we purchased a Vector truck, which was close to about $700,000. Not knowing at the time, we could use those funds because we have invoices for that and everything. We could use revenue replacement to purchase that. So what that essentially does is free up that free cash money that we used at town meeting, that funding source, and now frees that up back into the pool of free cash, and we use revenue replacement to pay for that. So it's an accounting function. We're transferring it from one account to another, but because of the revenue guidelines from the Treasury, we have to notify the board of that. Just in case we get audited down the road, they need to know that the board gave its blessing to do that. So this is twofold. We're paying for a project that's already in the queue. Tim has already gotten quotes on it. The invoices are out there. And secondly, it's coming back out to free cash so we can spend it again for capital when we recertify capital in the fall.
Another fine job, Gary. Thank you.
Could I, clarification? Why, if the deadline's passed and we're able to still do it, could you clarify that for me?
Yes, certainly. So in terms of the projects that we'd be reallocating for, or just the projects in the queue currently?
No, I kept hearing about a deadline, 12/31, and now we can but we can now, it's January 6th, and we can use those funds.
We have invoices to support it because the invoices for the Vector truck
From last year.
are from August, September, after town meeting. Tim worked on that immediately. So we have the invoices to support it if we did get audited. The problem with the revenue replacement and the whole opera, as far as the Treasury is concerned, for the guidance that we've received from auditing and all that, they don't even know how this is going to get audited. It's really up in the air. All the seminars that we've sent the town accountant to, there's really no guidance. So we're trying to evaluate it now and just try to keep every dime that we can. So if we knew this back in August, we would have went to town meeting and used federal money to pay for the Vector truck, for instance.
So Gary, to clarify, 935, there were two contracts, Chris, you said that were not approved. Are we not able to get back at those now with available funds, or did we lose something?
So the two things that fell off were there's some I&I work through DPW. Now, as part of the motion, I'm saying up to 935 because talking to Tim, he might, through one of his contracts, be able to give us the obligation paperwork we need. And then I believe there was 810,000 for, what was that, the Route 6?
Route 6, Fons Corner Road, water valuation.
Yes, so, and that was 810,000, which, unfortunately, again, he could not get off until this spring at the earliest. So, that's the reason why that would have to be reallocated here this evening. But in terms of moving forward, you know, if we were to reallocate these funds, this would be something we could work with Tim to have him submit a capital request if he did need those funds to keep the project moving again this year.
So that project, for instance, the Fons Corner Road, we would then put that on capital and have capital vetted out through priority and see how they.
All right, so it's not like we left the 910 in the ARPA funds because we missed the deadline, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, we're reallocating the funds to projects that we've already spent money on.
Okay.
Namely the capital items, so that we can just then have that money fall back out to free cash, so capital to.
Swap it back.
Yeah, and then if capital feels that it's appropriate, the Route 6 Fons Corner Road, capital would then approve it.
Okay.
But I don't want to speak for capital because that they prioritize that on their own.
Any other questions?
How much money have we actually gotten from the ARPA funding in the House? And just approximate.
5.
I can get to the breakout. I don't want to quote something.
We've actually received $5 million.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's close enough. Yes. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to need a motion to approve the two items that Mr. Vitale had suggested, which would be the 100,000 from the EMA towards the comp study, and then to reallocate the 935,000 from the DPW projects to the capital projects that have already been
Authorized.
Allocated.
already been allocated.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Mickelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Brooks on the motion. Any questions? Okay, roll call vote. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Titlebaum? And the chair votes in favor. All right, next item, we have the license renewals. Under motor vehicle class 1, we have JEM Motorsports, Inc. and Toyota of Dartmouth.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks on the motion. Any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill? Chair votes in favor. Next item is the motor vehicle class 2 license, APC Auto Body, Clear Auto, Dartmouth, Elite Auto Sales, JEM Motorsports, Inc., Jaden Auto, Inc., M&G Custom Mini Corp., Ritchie's Auto Sales, Route 6 Auto and Marine.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Titlebaum? Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Chair votes in favor. Next item is the motor vehicle class 3 license, Ritchie's Auto Sales and Sylvia Auto Parts, Inc.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Titlebaum? Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Secondhand goods, junk dealers, and/or antiques, ECO ATM, 506 State Road, and 200 Dartmouth Mall.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs.
Brooks. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. Titlebaum? Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Inn-holder's license. The following conditions are part on the inn-holder's license, that the license must comply within the inn and inn-holder regulations of the Board of Health, and the licensee must cooperate in the enforcement of these regulations by the Board of Health and its agents, including through making all guest books and guest rooms available for them for inspection and review. That's the Residence Inn in Dartmouth. Do I have a motion?
Oh, motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Mr. Tattelbaum. Mrs. Brooks.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. All right, next item, we have the interim town administrator update.
Just a couple of items. So every year we put out our buy recycled policy. This is for our sustainable materials recovery program. This update went out to all of our departments here earlier this week. And with that, we should be good to go. The last thing is Town Hall will be closed Monday, January 20th, 2025. In observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, it'll be back open for normal business on Tuesday, the 21st.
Okay. Just had a quick question. 1, 2, 3, Thursday, which is the 9th.
Yes,
Town Hall will be open?
it will be, yes.
Okay, all right, because I've noticed federal offices are going to be closed for President Carter. But the town hall will be open, okay. All right. All right.
Got a couple of things, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Carrero.
So the FY26 budgets are due to my office on or before the 17th at 4:30. I've given both the Finance Committee and Capital Committee the dates for their meetings. We'll be meeting with them at the beginning of February. Once I've entered all the budgets, I'll be sitting down with the departments to the week of February, first for my departmental review and scheduling them with the Finance Committee and Capital. And also a reminder that to the residents that their third and fourth quarter real estate for FY25 has gone out, personal property
I know
tax.
already.
They've been mailed and are due 2/3/25. If you've not received your bill, we ask you to contact the Town Collector's Office at 508-910-1805 and 1806, or by visiting the office between the hours of 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday.
Okay. All right. Old business, anything on Bliss Corner?
No new updates.
Lake Nokichoke?
No new updates.
Municipal Surveyor?
No new updates.
Mass DEP Title V amendments?
No new updates.
All right. All right, so next we have the minutes of December 2nd, December 11th, December 12th, and December 16th.
Mr. McDonald, I reviewed all the minutes. I found no errors.
Coming from an educator, that's wonderful news.
I would like to say that the minutes of December 11th and December 12th, which were the 2 evenings that we interviewed candidates for the town administrators, the minutes were very thorough.
Agreed. Extremely.
So hats off.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mickelson. Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion, any questions? Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Mr. Tattelbaum.
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
And the chair votes in favor. Select Board update. Anybody have anything?
I do not. Go ahead.
Firstly, I would like to address the tragic but accidental death of Barbara Najjar at Paid-Nerham. And there was a subsequent accident in Paid-Nerham at the intersection as well. May she rest in peace. It's certainly a tragedy. I did make a call to Chief Levesque, and I had a short conversation with Tim Barber, and suggested that maybe we could meet to discuss any additional possible safety improvements down there, because it's a busy place. And what I'd like to ask for is the authorization to have that meeting and then report back to the board on what they would want to do, if anything, going forward. I think at the minimum, we need that we owe that to the family, to do whatever we can, whatever there might be, to maybe hopefully avoid an additional tragedy.
Well, any improvement to protect people who visit the village or any other area in town is really important. So I don't see a problem in having that discussion.
It's informational only, and to bring back.
You're free to have that meeting if you wish.
Okay. And the Chief Levesque was very enthusiastic about the idea. Yes, he always is.
Okay.
a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
I got a request from Ed Nickerson, who's the Cub Master of PAC 74, they're working on a veterans service project and would like to make some kind of discussion and presentation to this board. I told him I would bring it tonight and bring it to your attention so we could get him and get them on a future meeting.
Yeah, just have him contact either Chris or Gary, and we can schedule it, I would think sometime in February.
Okay. And lastly, Dr. John Swanson, who is a longtime member of the Planning Board, Finance Committee, and he was the chair of the Building Committee for the high school. Fine fellow's retirement. He did approach me at town meeting regarding the traffic signal at Slocum Road and Allen Street. And he said the signals are reversed. In other words, they were longer on Allen and shorter on Slocum Road. Okay, I brought it to the attention of Tim Barber at the DPW, and sure enough, there's a company that controls all those, and sure enough, that was the case. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's less congestion and less traffic at that intersection. And two things here. I'd like to acknowledge John Swanson's input, and he's a great guy, and he's obviously still pretty sharp. And I don't know if we're going to end up with a deluge, but if anyone sees that same sort of situation where it does happen sometimes, I guess it happens sometimes by accident or programming or whatever, but it's controlled by some kind of computer. So if anybody has any input to bring to the DPW in terms of if there's a signal that seems wrong, then bring it up. But more importantly, my salute to Dr. John Swanson for helping us out.
Yeah.
It's,
Hey, you Dr. Swanson, and here comes the deluge of Route 6 and Fons Corner Road lights.
that's a state road. We have no control over that one.
Tucker and Route 6.
You know, we're still gonna have a deluge.
We're gonna be directing traffic on a weekly basis. Each of us gonna take a Fons
I got a
Corner
hat
Road
for you,
Route
Dave.
6. Yeah.
Dave, I got a big helmet for you.
I got a yellow jacket I can use, but more importantly, thank you, Dr. Swanson.
Yep. Anything else, David?
That's it for me for now. Thank
Anybody
you.
else?
Just a
Mr.
couple
O'Neill?
of requests through you, Sean. First one is, I had a conversation with a local veteran recently and inquiring about the exemptions and the changes given the HERO Act out of the governor's office back in October of 24. And spoke to another veteran service officer locally, and just had a few questions about the exemptions, the number of classifications for these veteran exemptions through the town. And I was wondering if we could get an invitation to Matt to come and update the board on the exemption numbers and what he thinks, how the HERO Act will affect the town, if there are any requests that he has, given the changes that were presented in that legislation.
All right, well, we can do that. We can have Chris and Gary contact
Dovetail it
him.
with Dave, with the issue that Dave just brought up.
With the PAC.
And Matt did reach out to us, and he is prepared to come before the board at a
Great.
future meeting to discuss it.
Let's do that as our first meeting in February.
And the last one was just if I could, if we could get an update on the process for the TA, find out where we are and what the,
Well, our process was we were supposed to meet today to discuss the contract. You all have a copy of the previous town administrator's last signed contract to look at. Unfortunately, due to a posting error, we'll be meeting this Thursday at 5 o'clock to discuss one item in open session, and then go into executive session to review the contract. Once that contract has been reviewed, and we will have town council draw up the contract, and then at our meeting on the 27th, we'll vote on the contract to forward to Ms. Allman, and then we'll see what her for responses to the contract.
So that's this Thursday at 5?
This Thursday at 5 o'clock.
The town council will be present?
Town council will be present.
What about, well, we don't have HR, so.
No, I don't think we need to have, I mean, we have the contract. We know there's a item that Mr. Talbot wants to put into the contract. There is one item I do want to put into the contract.
I have an item. So
Right.
should we forward those to you?
No, you can bring it right
You
to
have
the
that
meeting.
Thursday?
Yeah,
Okay.
bring it right to the
Not-
meeting. You don't need to have it ahead of time. I mean, it's nothing, mine is very minor. It's nothing earth shaking.
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
It wasn't my personal request, it was voted on.
No, I know, but you had brought it up, so, but that was, I wanted to make sure that was, in there, and then we send it out. All right, anything else, Mr. O'Neill?
No, that's it.
All right, I do have one question, and this is kind of, it's actually an odd thing. If a business in town wishes to hold a fundraiser, which includes live entertainment, they still need to come before this, or our office, to request an entertainment license, correct?
Yeah, it's similar to the function that goes on at the mall.
Okay.
Live, that's really,
All right, because there was a local business who had advertised a function with a live band at their establishment, and then it disappeared from social media. So I'm assuming that they're not holding it, but I don't remember ever seeing the request for an entertainment license for that establishment. I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's really weird. I mean, it's holding a fundraising event for an animal shelter with a live band at a funeral home.
Did you see that?
So,
Sounds like a lively
That's
event
not
to me.
usually there, because
dogs.
had it been a business that often has
Right.
an entertainment.
This is the only reason.
This business
I mean,
does
I
not
thought it
typically
was an
have
odd, I thought it was an
entertainment.
odd thing, and then I thought about it afterwards, and I'm saying, wait a minute, they need an entertainment license. And I don't know of any funeral homes that have an entertainment license.
I would assume not.
Certain kind of entertainment. Yeah, certain kind.
It's kind of,
They can get a little lively sometimes.
everybody wants to, no, I'm not even gonna go there.
Yeah, but in terms of protocol, if we do find that someone is advertising and they haven't gone through the process, we'll do what we can to reach out to them and let them know, hey, you need to get
Yeah, I mean,
this info to
I'm
us.
assuming they're not gonna go through with it because it's no longer being listed on social media. I just thought of it kind of an odd thing, so that was just one hell of a way to close out 2024. All right, anybody have anything else? All right, so we have information, Mrs. Brooks, go ahead.
No, Mr. Yenna raised his hand in the audience.
I don't know about that, Tom. If you keep it real short, I'm gonna time you.
Hi, Tom Yenna. I came here for another reason today. I waited a month. They didn't have enough of a quorum to have a meeting, historical. So I had a little time. I figured I'd walk in here and welcome you to New Year 25. Good luck to you. And I think we ought to have meetings here instead of online, whatever you call it. But I got something in mind. It's really going to take me a few minutes to say so. Dave Talabon, Miss Brooks, Barbara, Almy, and a few other people I had meetings with. There's one thing in this town we need real bad. And you people have been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. You combine it, water and sewer. I'm going to pull it apart and just say water. You drink the water first, treatment plant takes care of it after you're done with it. So the water is a big thing. And I was on a committee for the town for 7 years. And you ever hear the expression, I got a dream? I got a plan. A reservoir in Dartmouth. There's 2 reservoirs in Dartmouth. One's for the city of Fall River, one's for the city of New Bedford. And they sell it back to us for millions of dollars, and it's sitting in Dartmouth. We got more water than any damn city or town I know anywhere around us. And we have a beautiful area up there that went to heck. Cranberry bogs. What an area for a reservoir. And I had DPW commissioners up there, they never thought anything was like that up there. And I done quite a bit of research about that. And it's pretty damn simple. Either you pump it out of the ground or you store it. And the best way to say it's not that costly is we have a good person that takes care of all that. Mother Nature. She rains like hell sometimes. Fills it up, hold it. Still gonna flow the same amount, but we got our own water in our own town, and it's not that costly. Another quick question come up. Well, we got to chemicalize it with chemicals or whatever. Here's Mother Nature again. One of the best water systems in the whole area is Providence. Comes out of Situate. Been up there 100 years. They blow it up in the air. About 500 feet of water going 500 feet in the air. It takes care of its own. It's everything Mother Nature out there. We got everything. If we didn't have the water, it would cost us millions. We got it. Why should it cost us millions to buy something we got? All we got to do is park it up there and do something with it. And the big plus is we have it all piped in. We have pumping stations up there next to the New Bedford Reservoir. We have a Dartmouth pumping station. We got big towers of water up there. And one of the biggest things that's going to happen in the next year or so is Resolve. It's a super fund. They've been spending millions and millions and millions of dollars up there fixing the water from chemicals and everything. So here comes a building that they're going to just trash, I think. It's made to take care of water. They're going to get rid of it. It's in our town. So everything is in our town. I would just like maybe somehow to promote this to somebody else. Everybody like Dave especially said, damn, that's a good idea. Let's look into it, find out about it. Well, after about 7 years, what do we do now? What I can do now, I don't know. And I've been thinking about presenting this to you as the board. You're supposed to be the people who run the whole town. I don't know who else to talk to be honest with you. And I have a lot of information, a lot of findings that I could present to it. So if you got any ideas for me,
Well, that's
holla.
one of the first times I've ever heard about anybody thinking, even contemplating having the town having its own reservoir. I know our forefathers, for all intents and purposes, were probably sold the bill of goods from the 2 municipalities in front of us, because to be honest with you, at the time when those water rights were sold, this was still basically a farming community, and the need for it wasn't there at the time. So, our forefathers said, hey, what the heck, why not? Unfortunately, now that decision, many years later, wasn't the best decision at all possible. I know we have a lot of capital projects that are coming down in the future, and I'm not sure how the reservoir is going to fit, because that's just a very large amount of money too.
But it's certainly something worth.
It's something worth to look
looking
into,
into.
definitely.
Tom's made this, we had discussion at the long-term capital plan, and the DPW fellows are there, and it's definitely something we as a group are looking at. Not only that, but purchasing water, why we purchase it, how much it costs, and where we get it. So Tom is, we actually meet again this week, and Tom's presentation and his thoughts are not only valid, but worth looking at. But the experts, beyond anybody in this room, are going to have to look at it, make a decision, make sense or not.
Well, it's definitely something to think about, that's for sure.
Well, I know it's not going to be overnight to be done or whatever, but I know somewhere you people live, you're the main man, you live on where? Lake Nokichoke.
Wow.
That's
see
our
it.
water. That's Dartmouth water. It comes out of the forest up there. Copica. The Indians named it. That's deep woods. That's what it means. It comes out of there. What does it do? It comes flowing down. Nobody fools with it. Maybe not, but Watauga Water System, City of Fall River's got a reservoir, a pumping station right in Dartmouth. They pump it through the woods. Comes all the way down through, looks him up in Lake Nokichoke. He looks at it every day. Goes down the road, under the road, it becomes the Westport River. The Westport River, Lake Nokichoke, we got Resolve, we got everybody fooling around with the water in Dartmouth. Why fool with it? Why take advantage of Dartmouth? And you had mentioned, I think you're right, City of Fall River and City of New Bedford, 99 years for $1. Take the damn water. New Bedford was Dartmouth anyway. Westport was Dartmouth. A lot of the towns were Dartmouth, and Dartmouth had more land area. We're the third largest in Massachusetts now anyway. But we've got what we need here. We ain't gonna go nowhere to get it. Let's do something with it.
That's an efficiency study, Tom, I could get behind. The efficiency studies out of the DPW, I'd like to see that as part of it. That would be interesting. And we've got 2 wells that we spent millions of dollars on, we're not getting anything out of. So, I don't know, I'd be interested to see what the experts really do have to say about something like that. And there's gotta be a hell of a lot of grants out there for an idea like that. So,
That's something else to
I
look for,
applaud
the
you.
grants. Yeah, exactly. Now, we got people that you meet all the time that's walking away from Dartmouth, retiring, getting out. Sullivan, he just retired from the water department. He ran the water department. I looked at him, he says, I'm leaving. Up to you, talk about it if you want. So that's what happens. You get somebody involved, all of a sudden they walk away. And somebody else comes in, and then you're going through hiring somebody else for this position, for that position, you don't know what you're running into. It continues on and on. And while it's a big problem, and I think everybody would be kind of with it to know what's happening, quick thing, that land's been there, I watched them. It's all opened up, it's open acres and acres. There's 40-some acres here and 40 more acres there. The guy died of cancer, sold it. And outside the border, wanted to put solar panels. Still have Cranberry to put solar panels. That all was trashed. His land for almost nothing. DNRT winds up with it. But in their wording of purchasing, they can't stop the flow. They got no control over the flow. It's still there. The water is Dartmouth. No matter who owns it, you can't say it's my water. Not away. It's town of Dartmouth. That's what has, and even when we store it, I like to store it above ground because it rains and it fills up, there's a big damage sometimes with too much water. Well, if you got it and a little control over it and take care of it, it's a lot cheaper for us. Then when they want it, let's sell it back to them, but it's on our damn property. So there's a possibility, and here's one last thing. There's gonna be some money for maintenance. If you know the flow, and it's pretty hard to, not too hard, but you can figure it out, you can get power out of that. They got places like in Connecticut River, I know the guys that have, there's power plants. As it flows, right? It's got a lot of power water. You can produce, like putting solar panels, you got water power. You've got it. You can't stop it, so it's running. You've got a lot of advantage to look at. But nobody's, I'm going to use the expression, got the guts to go out there and try to do something with it. So I'm asking you as a father, fathers or whatever, but even women now, God bless you, I hope you got some go for you. But anyway, let's look further. And I think they've come up with the idea, they got the plan for 20, 30 years down the road or something. So let's not lose it. And thank you. I wish you well in this year, all of you.
Thank you, Tom, for coming in and sharing.
And I hope your new people are okay. God bless.
Make sure.
You're a wealth of knowledge, and thank you so much.
I got it. I forgot he was in back.
What is he doing?
All right, so now we have a license renewal update for information.
Yes, this is all of the businesses that did not renew. I'll make a note to say that this list is not nearly as long as it's been in previous years, and that is accredited to Melanie, within our select board office who has been able to get in touch and get most before you. But as these applications come in, we will get them through the process and before the board for renewal.
Great.
How many, just out of curiosity, how many of them are there?
5.
5. That's
Oh,
not
that's
bad at all.
great.
That's pretty good. I know there were 3 done today. All right. We have the Dartmouth aggregate notice.
Yes, so periodically, some residents may have gotten some notices within the mail about our community aggregate program. Once in a while, the company will send out mailers to new residents or residents who might have moved within the community, informing them of our aggregation program. If you did receive this notice, you do have the option to opt out. Otherwise, you will be automatically enrolled in the standard plan with our community. You know, I'll note that currently, you know, the rate that you get through Eversource is slightly cheaper than what our current rate is. Our rate is through November of this year, and Eversource's rate is through April. So just keep an eye on that if you're one who has moved it. Otherwise, keep a lookout because we're going to be starting those renegotiations pretty soon.
Okay. All right, and let's see, we have the Department of Public Works, Utilities,
Conference.
let's see.
Conference.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the technical conference, which will take place Tuesday, January 28th, from 10 to 5.
Who will be attending that?
Does it say where?
So it's a virtual conference. It's
Okay.
all day. You know, Governor Healy signed into law the 2024 Clean Energy Act, and as part of that, you know, trying to provide additional discounts to eligible moderate income customers. But this conference is really getting to the meat and potatoes about how they should define eligible moderate income customers, and are there existing definitions out there, and have other jurisdictions implemented a program like this. So if you are a resident who's interested, you know, comments are being accepted through Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, or you could attend the virtual conference. The information is in there.
Okay. All right, and last thing, we have a town meeting calendar. So I'm looking at the calendar. The last day to submit articles for the spring town meeting is the last day of February, on February 28th. CPC articles are due on the March 5th, and then there's all sorts of, town council has until the end of March to revise the articles, and then eventually spring town meeting is June 3rd at the high school. All right, anybody have anything else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, is there a second?
Mrs. Brooks.
Second by Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? Being none. Roll call vote. Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum.
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill. And the chair votes in favor. Good night, everybody. Thank you.